Human history is often told by the winners, a narrative shaped by power and its intentions. Concepts like evolution and the agricultural revolution are well known to us, but is reality that simple? What if ancient stories of gods, angels, giants, and disasters are more literal than they first appear? Looking closer, an alternative narrative about the human race starts to emerge, challenging everything we know about power and conventional history. It's a story that has been censored, forgotten, or ignored, perhaps because it's beyond human understanding. But now it's beginning to be revealed. In 1946, in what we now call the West Bank, a group of Bedouin teenagers was tending to sheep and goats near the ancient settlement of Qumran. To pass the time, they began throwing stones across the rugged desert terrain. One of these stones ended up in a dark cave, and suddenly a sound of breaking came from inside. Curious, the boys decided to explore the cave and discovered a series of clay jars, one of which was broken. They had no idea they had just made one of the greatest discoveries in human history. Inside the jars were a collection of ancient scrolls. In the following years, archaeologists, historians, and treasure hunters found more fragments of these scrolls, which became known as the Dead Sea Scrolls. Among them were pieces of a mysterious, non-canonical, and long-forgotten religious text, the Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch is made up of 5 sections: the Book of the Watchers, Sentinels or Observers, chapters 1 to 36, the Book of Parables, or Similitudes of Enoch, chapters 37 to 71, the Astronomical Book, chapters 72 to 82, the Book of Dreams, chapters 83 to 90, the Epistle of Enoch, chapters 91 to 108. These books tell the story of Enoch, the 7th patriarch from Genesis, father of Methuselah and grandfather of Noah. Yes, the same Noah from the Ark story. But what the Book of Enoch offers is a completely different version of the events leading up to the Great Flood in Noah's time. It's a retelling that diverges from the traditional biblical narrative. The story of the Watchers is told in biblical terms, describing how fallen angels were sent to earth to watch over humans in ancient, uncertain times. However, instead of just observing them, these Watchers fell in love with human women and ended up getting involved in improper relationships. The Book of Enoch tells of the offspring from the union between the Watchers and humans, known as the Nephilim. These Nephilim are described as wild giants who threatened and plundered humanity, or more strikingly, as supernatural giants that devoured men. Angered by the actions of the Watchers, God, or the gods, decided to punish them by chaining them in an underground prison deep within the earth. Enoch was chosen as the mediator between God, the angels, and the imprisoned Watchers. The book describes his journeys between heaven and earth, where he witnessed rivers, mountains, and the ends of the earth from a heavenly perspective. Despite Enoch's attempts to intercede, God, or the gods, concluded that the earth needed to be punished. This punishment came in the form of a great flood that would destroy the Nephilim and forever seal the Watchers in their prison. Before this event, Enoch was taken up to heaven in a chariot of fire. Interestingly, the book of Genesis, which mentions the great flood in the Abrahamic traditions, also refers to the Nephilim in chapter 6, describing them as heroes of old, warriors of renown. And that's not the only mention of the Nephilim in the Bible. In Numbers 13:32-33, the Israelites visit a land inhabited by Nephilim, who were so large that they made the Israelites feel like grasshoppers. For many of us today, various passages in the Bible are interpreted as allegories, a kind of philosophical myth rather than a literal historical record. However, there is archaeological evidence that points to a great flood that happened in Earth's past, a story also found in religious and cultural traditions around the world. But what about the Nephilim the giants mentioned? Did they really exist? If they did, there would surely be evidence, and surprisingly, there is. There are reports of discoveries of large skeletons in North America, with several articles published in newspapers at the time suggesting that these giants may have coexisted with early humans. And this isn't just a phenomenon in the United States. Giant skeletons have also been found in the Amazon rainforest, Africa, and other parts of the world. In fact, stories about giants appear in many cultures throughout history. For example, the explorer Marco Polo wrote about a race of giants in Zanzibar, describing them as so strong that they could carry up to 4 ordinary men. The people of the ancient city of Tangier in Morocco believed their founder was a giant named Antaeus. In Ireland, there's a legend that the famous Giant's Causeway on the country's northeast coast was built by the giant Fionn Mac to cross the sea and challenge another giant in Scotland. Additionally, stories of giants are found in Norse legends and ancient Greek mythology. With so many records across different cultures, did giants really exist? And if the Book of Enoch, which recounts these stories, is less allegorical than we think, perhaps it's less myth and fantasy and closer to reality. It's worth noting that for many centuries, the Book of Enoch was an important part of both Christian and Jewish religious traditions. Many sects, if not most, considered the book as sacred scripture. Some even suggest that the Book of Enoch might have been a direct inspiration for the Book of Genesis, given the amount of similar and overlapping stories. So what happened? Why isn't the Book of Enoch part of the Bible? To understand why the Book of Enoch was excluded from the Bible, we need to go back to the early centuries after the death of Jesus Christ, before the 39 books of the Old Testament and the 27 of the New Testament, as we know them today. Originally, there was a wide variety of Gospels and religious texts in early Christian tradition. As Christianity grew after Jesus' death, the Church needed to decide which texts should be read and followed, and which teachings should be applied. In other words, it had to decide which texts were considered acceptable and divinely inspired. To create consistency in the Christian faith, there was a need to establish an official canon. You might remember the canonization process from Dan Brown's famous work, The Da Vinci Code. In the story, the formation of the canon is portrayed as a dark process, supposedly happening during the Council of Nicaea in the 4th century, where Emperor Constantine and other church leaders supposedly shaped the Christian canon to serve their own interests. However, this version is more fiction than fact. The Council of Nicaea did not determine the official canon of the Bible. Although it's an intriguing story, it doesn't accurately reflect historical facts. Even so, it's true that church leaders played a big role in selecting the texts that would go into the official canon. There were many debates, power plays, and disputes, including labeling opponents as heretics, all in an effort to expand their own influence. However, this defining of the canon didn't happen in a single council. It was a long process that took centuries to complete. By the end of the 4th century, the Bible's canon as we know it was finally established, but without including the Book of Enoch. This raises the question, how did such an influential text like the Book of Enoch get left out? To answer that, we can look at other Gospels that were also excluded from the canon. One example is the Gospel of Peter, which was found in Egypt in 1886 and revealed a lesser-known story about the resurrection of Jesus. Jesus left his tomb, accompanied by 2 giant angels and a floating cross that spoke. And they heard a voice from heaven saying, "You have preached to those who are asleep." And the cross answered, "Yes." Another example is the Gospel of Mary, which portrays Mary Magdalene not just as a disciple of Jesus, but as his favorite. In this Gospel, Peter questions why he and the other disciples should listen to Mary, since she is a woman. Matthew responds, "If the Savior made her worthy, who are you to disregard her? Surely the Savior knows her very well. That's why he loved her more than us." Just like the Book of Enoch, these Gospels present narratives that challenge the history we know. So it's no surprise that these texts were not included or were censored by those who established the official Christian canon. For this reason, the Book of Enoch might have been forgotten if not for small Orthodox sects of Ethiopian Jews. The only pre-modern version of the text was written in Ge'ez, an ancient African language. This version was used by Richard Lawrence, the Archbishop of Cashel, in 1821 to create the first English translation. This translation also helped inform the study of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Interestingly, even though the Book of Enoch was excluded from the official canon and nearly forgotten, there are several references to it in the Bible. In Genesis and Numbers, there are mentions of the Nephilim. Genesis also includes a detailed recounting of Enoch's lineage. In the book of Hebrews, it says that God took Enoch away, which seems to refer to Enoch being taken to heaven in a chariot of fire before the great flood. Additionally, in 1 Corinthians 11:5-6, St. Paul gives instructions for women to cover their heads in church, which may refer to the fact that the watchers in the book of Enoch were attracted to women with long hair. This is a practice that continues today in both Roman Catholicism and Islam. Although it was censored and in many cases forgotten, the Book of Enoch never completely disappeared. There's something deeper behind this book and its fascinating stories, something that goes beyond simply being part of the Bible or not. Some scholars suggest that Enoch, the seventh biblical patriarch, mirrors the seventh pre-flood king named Enmendurana in Babylonian tradition. The ancient Greeks linked Enoch with the god Hermes, while the Egyptians had a similar figure in their own mythology. There are many other examples, but the big question is, why does Enoch, or whatever name he's given, keep appearing in the oldest traditions? To find the answer, we might need to look beyond the Greeks, Egyptians, or even the Babylonians, and go back to the ancient Sumerians. According to Sumerian texts, Earth was visited by supernatural beings in the distant past. These visitors are described in Sumerian tradition in a way that closely resembles the Watchers in the Book of Enoch. However, instead of being called Watchers, the Sumerians referred to them as the Anunnaki, which means those who came from the heavens. To the Sumerians, they were gods. Modern thinkers like Zecharia Sitchin and Erich von Daniken, however, consider these Anunnaki to be an ancient race of aliens who came to Earth. Interestingly, Sumerian texts tell stories about the Anunnaki, who, like the Watchers in the Book of Enoch, supposedly interacted with humans, leading to the creation of a new species, the Nephilim. Just like the story of Enoch, the Anunnaki also grew discontent with Earth's situation and caused a great flood. This makes us wonder, could the Book of Enoch and other traditions be recounting the ancient Sumerian story of the Anunnaki? Let's think about the agricultural revolution, a time when humanity transitioned from a nomadic lifestyle of hunting and gathering to settled farming. This shift occurred in what is now modern-day Kurdistan, where barley, wheat and rye were grown, along with oats, peas and lentils, and where goats and sheep were domesticated. Copper and lead were being smelted alongside weaving and pottery. This ancient Kurdish culture was one of the first to develop writing, making it one of the earliest literate societies in human history. It makes us wonder how humans evolved so quickly. Interestingly, the Kurdish people identify themselves as descendants of the children of the jinn, or children of the spirits. Could this be another ancient reference to the union between the Anunnaki and human women? According to Sumerian texts, it was the Anunnaki who brought advanced knowledge and technologies that drove human civilization forward. Many believe this could explain how seemingly impossible monuments like the pyramids of Giza or Teotihuacan were built. These ancient monuments, with their extraordinary sophistication, often defy explanation, especially when we consider the culture and social conditions recorded in history. This might help us understand how humans made such a significant transition, moving from a nomadic hunter-gatherer lifestyle to sophisticated civilizations, all in a historically short period of time. What's fascinating is that the Book of Enoch describes a process very similar to that involving the Watchers, reflecting the role of the Anunnaki in bringing advanced knowledge and technologies to humanity. They taught people about metallurgy, mining, science, medicine, reading, and writing. They also taught how to interpret the stars, use cosmetics, create jewelry, and revealed the secrets of warfare. In the Book of Enoch 8:1-3, it says, Azazel taught men to make swords, knives, shields, and armor, and showed them the metals of the earth and how to work them, along with bracelets, ornaments, and the use of antimony to beautify the eyelids, as well as precious stones and all the colorful dyes. And much wickedness arose, they went astray and corrupted their ways. Could it be that the book attributed to the biblical prophet is merely recounting the ancient story of the Anunnaki? This is interesting because it's a classic example of something that remains inexplicable when we look at the culture and social circumstances of the time, all documented in historical records. It seems that the Anunnaki might have given a helping hand to ancient humans, especially in building the Egyptian pyramids. According to the ancient Arab historian al-Makrizi, the pyramids were built by a king named Saurid, who lived before the Great Flood. Curiously, Saurid is translated as Enoch in Hebrew. In the Book of Enoch, there's a chapter where the prophet mentions the secrets of lightning or the secrets of thunder. Some believe this chapter might be talking about mysteries related to energy and electricity. This leads to an interesting connection with the Anunnaki, as many believe these gods tried to pass on their secrets to humans through crop circles. In recent decades, crop circles have appeared around the world, displaying complex mathematical patterns, magnetic diagrams, and even engineering concepts. While some of these circles might have been made by humans as art or pranks, there are those who suggest they could be the work of the Anunnaki. Additionally, consider Enoch's description of his journey to meet the gods, especially in light of UFO sightings often associated with these crop circles. Enoch reported, "I was taken to a kind of floating palace, huge and like carved glass. The floor was made of glass panels, and through it, we could see the stars as we traveled." With this in mind, one could speculate that the chariot of fire that took Enoch before the Great Flood might actually have been an alien spacecraft. It might sound incredible, but the stories of watchers, giants, Anunnaki, and Nephilim, which were part of ancient cultures for millennia, are not entirely forgotten. The Sumerian culture was only recently recognized, and the Book of Enoch was excluded from the biblical canon. Given the profound impact these stories could have on our understanding of human history and our place in the universe, it's not surprising they were set aside. However, maybe these stories haven't been entirely forgotten. Think about the well-known biblical narrative of Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden. If we look at this story not just literally or philosophically, but as an allegory or metaphor, we can interpret it like this. God created Adam to take care of the earth, just like the watchers in the Book of Enoch were sent by God or the gods. From Adam's rib, God created Eve. Adam and Eve, then, represent a kind of cross between the watchers and human women. Adam and Eve are told they can eat anything they want in the Garden of Eden, except the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. When they eat the fruit, they gain knowledge. This could symbolize how the Watchers brought advanced technology and knowledge to humans who maybe weren't ready to handle it all. Just like eating the fruit from the tree gave Adam and Eve the knowledge of God, the Book of Enoch describes how the Watchers revealed eternal secrets that were kept in heaven and that humans were trying to understand. Reading the story of Adam and Eve this way, it's easy to see the parallels with the Book of Enoch. Maybe in telling the story of Adam and Eve, people were retelling the narratives from the Book of Enoch, just in a different way. They were revisiting the ancient Sumerian story of the Anunnaki, as many other cultures and religions did before them. In this way, they included a crucial piece of human history in their own religious canon, but in an allegorical manner, so that these ancient records could continue to exist. So what is the real story of humanity? Is it what's in the official history books, or is it something deeper and maybe forgotten? The answer might not be hidden, but rather right in front of our eyes all along. I'll leave 2 interesting videos from this channel. I hope you enjoy them. Thanks for watching and see you next time.